Well, this is Pastor Allen, and our guest today is my friend Josh Turner. Welcome, Josh.
Good to be here.
Josh is a part of the church and a part of the community, and best of all, just my friend. But as a part of this crazy year of 2020, we're having another of our Saturday night festivals. It's raining at the moment. We're trusting God that's going to stop. You did your sound check in the rain.
That's when he asked all the country singers to come, when it starts raining. So we appreciate that.
We do our best to make you feel at home.
Yeah.
So are you playing at all?
Not really. I think I've played maybe 6 shows since mid-March. I played the Opry a couple of weekends ago for the first time in, I don't know, almost a year. But it was the first weekend that they had an audience. It was a limited audience, but it was 500 people. But I'll take 500 over 0
That felt good,
any day
it?
of the week. But and it's good to have the Opry back on TV and all that. So yeah.
Very good. So have you got some shows before the end of the year?
I've got technically one, and it's in Fort Worth, but I'm there 2 nights in a row because of limited capacity. So we worked out a deal, which hasn't always worked. There's been other venues that have tried to work out, me coming and playing 2 shows, but we worked out a deal, and so I'm playing 2 days in November, and then that's it for the rest of the year. So
you've had a slow year this year, and I bet next year every day's booked twice.
Most of the dates, I think I've had 81 dates this year move, and most of them have already been confirmed for next year. So yeah, my 2021 schedule is pretty stacked right now. Hopefully it'll stay that way. So if y'all are itching to come see a Josh Turner show, 2021 is your year. So
we'll take a picture so Jennifer and the boys know what you look like.
Yeah, exactly.
They can check on you next year. So.
Exactly.
They probably had enough this year, though. They're ready for you to go back out on the road.
Yeah, that's everybody keeps asking, about the family and all that. And I said, I think the biggest adjustment is them just getting used to me being home so much. So
you get on the bus and go for rides around Nashville.
Yeah.
Just you get a little bit of experience.
Well, it costs more now, surprisingly, because we have to do a day-by-day kind of deal instead of a long-term lease. So, yeah, it's a squirrely year.
It is for all of us. But we're going to come through this, God willing.
Absolutely.
We're about 10 days away from an election.
Yeah.
We need God's mercy in this nation.
Yeah.
We are divided in so many, many ways, far beyond Republican and Democrat. We need God's help.
Yeah, and I've been saying for a long, long time, long before we ever thought a pandemic would hit us, that I don't think everybody makes race such a big issue, and I've said for years, coming from South Carolina, I grew up around whites, blacks, and then there came a time where a lot of Hispanic people would come up to work in the tobacco fields where I'm from, and I'd work right there in the tobacco fields right alongside them. And I learned from a very early age that the color of your skin has nothing to do with your character. And I've always kind of jokingly said, there's a lot of black people that I really like, and there's a lot of white people that I don't really like, and it's just, it doesn't matter what color you are. It's about the heart, and it's always been a matter of the heart. And that hasn't changed. It's been that way for ages. So
that's the truth. We have a mutual friend, Mike Huckabee, and he was here this summer, and he said, America doesn't have a skin problem. We have a sin problem.
We do. I agree with that.
And I think he was telling us all the truth.
Yep.
We've got to find a way to heal and to begin to stand together and to not divide ourselves. But we need God's mercy to do that.
Absolutely.
But God's pretty good at showing mercy. I believe we'll see some progress come out of this.
I think so too.
I choose to believe that.
It makes you appreciate, what you took for granted before. So,
you mentioned South Carolina. I know you're a big Clemson fan.
Yeah.
So we got to take a minute and cheer for Clemson Nation, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they're 6-0 right now. They didn't look that great today, but they were, figuring some things out. But, I think every team kind of has at least one of those games throughout the season, and I think today was our day. So, but we beat Syracuse, and so yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. This is the thing that I'm most disappointed about for 2020, though, as far as college football goes, is that Clemson and South Carolina is one of the longest running rivalries in college football. and it's not happening this year.
Really?
Thanks to the SEC. Yeah, they decided that they weren't going to play anybody outside of the SEC, and I think the ACC had allowed for at least one or two non-conference games, and they were willing to play South Carolina, but the SEC wouldn't allow it. So there's been talk of both teams just showing up at a high school one Friday night and just playing just for the heck of it to keep the tradition going.
We'll bring the pickup and turn the headlights on so they can
Exactly.
see. I'm in. Well, I bet you play one SEC team. You got to play your annual classic with Alabama.
Oh, yeah, it's probably coming. Yeah.
That's been working in your favor lately.
Yeah, so far so good.
I like to watch Nick Saban cry, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Oh, so we got 2021 coming. We're going to get out of COVID with God's good help. Have you got any lessons you've taken away from this year? Because it seems like we've all been sheltered and shut down.
Yeah, in my busiest times, sitting out on the road, playing shows and going from town to town, I've found myself sitting alone, quiet, asking myself if I was not doing this, what would I be doing? And 2020 showed me what I would be doing. And I've learned that all that stuff outside of going around touring and singing and stuff, none of that makes any money. So I'm going to have to stick with the singing thing for a while. I've enjoyed being at home, and my wife Jennifer, she had an interesting perspective because her daddy's suffering from dementia pretty bad right now, and he was a pastor for a lot of years. I think the first 13 years of his marriage, he was traveling the world. I mean, he's just been everywhere. He's influenced a lot of people, and he was living out his calling, and he was building churches and all this kind of stuff. And so she has kind of come to realize that there was a lot of time that she missed out on with him because he was gone so much. But as she's gotten older, she's realized that he was just living his purpose and living out his calling. And so she, I think, viewed him in a way that maybe she shouldn't have, but just merely because she didn't understand, why there was a disconnect there. And so she, with that in mind, she's come to me and said, I know it's been hard for you not working this year, but these boys will always remember you being here and the time that they've gotten to spend with you. And there's been, there's been this list. I think everybody has this list of things that you say you're going to do if you had the time. And I've checked off all of those things this year because I've had all the time in the world. And I've been fishing more. I've actually gone camping out with the family and all that kind of stuff that you don't really have time for, don't make time for when you're busy and working and all that. But we've been able to do that kind of stuff, and it's been fun. We've made a lot of good memories this year in spite of the craziness going on in the world.
Your boys keep turning in prayer requests that you'll go back to work.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's about the economy or they just want some space. So.
Yeah, I know it. They're probably tired of the discipline.
I'm sure of that. Every time I sit and talk to you or we're someplace, I think you went through puberty twice.
I did.
Your voice kept changing and mine stopped somewhere along the way. So.
Yeah. Jennifer threw a little party for a friend of hers the other night, and so the boys were over there blowing up these balloons with helium, and they talked me into, sucking some helium and trying to sing it. So I sang a Vince Gill song, believe it or not. It's the first time I've ever sung a Vince Gill song in the same key, so that was fun.
We were doing Easter service one year at Murphy Center, and I was sitting next to Charlie Daniels, and you were singing.
Yeah.
Then you were doing Long Black Train, and he leaned over and he said, "There's not very many men can take that note."
Yeah.
So you had a fan in Charlie.
Yeah, I miss old Charlie. He was a good one. The thing I admired about him was that even into his early 80s, he just had like twice as much energy as I did. It was just unbelievable. He was so passionate about what he did and the music, and he just kept going. He didn't let his age stop him, and that's crazy to think when you got somebody twice as old as you and they're out there working just as much. And so that was pretty admirable.
That's true. You wrote Long Black Train when you were in college?
I did. Yeah.
You should have written 2 songs that day.
I know it. I wish. It was hard enough to write that one.
When did you know you wanted to do music?
I guess when I was 13.
That's your second day in the tobacco field?
Yeah. I was 13. I played a benefit at our church called April Fools for Christ. And it was a kind of a weird deal because the way it worked was somebody would put forth a certain amount of money for somebody to do something. And that person either had to do it or pay the money to get out of it. And so that's the way they made their money. And so my mama knew that me and my 2 siblings didn't have any money. So she put up $25 each for each of us to go and do something. And I got the better end of the deal because she had me singing a Randy Travis song. She had my sister doing a tap dance routine, and my brother had to do a Steve Urkel impersonation. So they didn't follow into that field, but I did. That was the night that I realized that I had a passion for singing country music, and the reaction that I got from the crowd that night was something I had never experienced before. But it was something I knew I wanted to continue to experience and feel.
So how long have you been on the Grand Ole Opry?
I debuted in December of 2001, and then I guess 5 or 6 short years later, they inducted me in 2007, which I thought was kind of crazy because I'm like, I haven't even paid my dues yet, and when Roy Clark asks you to be a part of the Opry, it's like, man, this can't be happening. It's crazy. And then, speaking of Vince Gill actually inducted me into the Opry. And so, yeah, I've had a lot of incredible things happen, throughout my life and my career. And I'm very thankful for, what I've been able to go and do. I've been able to meet and play for 2 presidents, and I've played at Ford Theater, and, I've played in every state in the union and a lot of other countries. And it's just been incredible. The friends that I've been able to make and the things I've been able to learn. And so, yeah, I've just been very blessed.
You have been. You're a young man to have covered that much territory.
Yeah, and I'm still learning. And, I mentioned that I had a story that involved your wife. So it's a good little segue.
Praise church.
So this past Monday, I'm out on my screen porch, and I'm working on the set list for tonight. And I'm playing a 30-minute or so acoustic set here. And, and I've played here a few times before. But I've always, even from an early age, anytime I've ever played in a church, I've always felt this pressure or this expectation that I'm supposed to go in and play all gospel songs and be a Stephen Curtis Chapman or a Michael W. Smith or whatever, what have you. And I don't know where that came from or where I started feeling that. But I was working on my set list, and I had it kind of whittled out. I had a first draft, and then I was playing some song this past Monday, and I just felt the Lord speak to me very strongly, and he said, "Be who I called you to be." And it was so freeing when I heard him say that. And so I stopped and I started thinking about what he said, and I'm like, I'm supposed to change my set list. And of course, we're playing outside and it's on a Saturday night and everything. And so I reworked my set list, and I started putting in some of my secular hits and everything. And so I started my set list off with "Why Don't We Just Dance?" And, and I mixed in, some gospel stuff within there. But there's several of my hits in the set list, and then I'm ending the set with "Your Man." So I did that Monday morning. Tuesday morning comes, and my wife gets a text from your wife, Kathy, and Kathy said that she had been out on a walk, and she heard "Why Don't We Just Dance" and "Your Man," and she jokingly said, "You should add these into your set list." And so Jennifer tells me that, and my jaw dropped. I'm like, oh my goodness, like that's what my set list starts and ends with. And so Jennifer texted her back and told her, I think, that the Lord had already spoken to me about, adding that stuff in, because when people see my face and my name, they expect to hear, the songs that brought me to where I am, and I shouldn't try to be somebody else. So, like I say, I think tonight's going to be a lot of fun, rain or shine, and it's going to be fun for me, whether it's fun for anybody else.
We listen to your secular stuff all the way to church.
Exactly.
I'm not going to pretend like I don't know the music when I walk in here.
Well, it's just weird because there was one time back right after I had gotten a deal and I was dating my wife, and like I say, her daddy was a pastor, and he asked me to sing at their church one night, and he asked me to sing whatever I wanted to sing, and I ended up singing Folks from Prison Blues in a church, and I was like, I don't know if this is right, but I did it anyway, and everybody loved it, but it was just kind of weird. But I think back to when Johnny Cash first met Billy Graham, and he was kind of convicted about the same thing. He asked Billy Graham, he said, I really feel strongly that the Lord is using me and my platform. Should I, quit singing all these other songs? And Billy said, don't quit singing those songs, because
Amen.
You bring people into the rest of your music, and then when they hear the rest of your repertoire and your catalog, they're introduced to Jesus. And so that's I think a key part in evangelism and ministering to the lost and people that maybe don't go to church every Sunday and all that kind of thing. So yeah, I was glad he spoke to me on Monday, and I'm glad I changed my set list up, and it should be
Me
fun
too.
enough, so.
But we've been together in a lot of different settings, from the Opry to other places you were doing shows or church. And you're the same person whichever those settings you're in. Mm-hmm. And to come to church and have to do something different would be as disappointing as if I go away from church and I become somebody different when I'm away from here.
Right.
I think God made us who we are, and we have to own that in any setting.
Yeah, and it's weird though. Like if I've had a church reach out to me through my booking agency or whatever, they'll specify. They'll be like, "We want your actual show." And I don't feel the pressure then, because I'll go in and I'll play my actual show and everything. And I'll kind of make, jokes about different songs and stuff. But if that's not specified necessarily, I think the pressure comes from myself. I end up saying, well, I need to tailor this to whatever. And so I think it's kind of held me back and made me more anxious when I get up on stage. So,
well, for the record, when you're around here, we want your real show. So.
yeah. Well, you'll get it, most of it tonight anyway.
Speaking, have you got any new projects you're working on or something coming out? Or
my latest record just came out August 21st. It's called Country State of Mind. Obviously, it's available digitally and on CD, and we released it on vinyl on September 18th. And we released a video for my single from this record, I Can Tell by the Way You Dance. It was kind of a cool concept. The director and me and my whole team, we were trying to think of like, how in the world are we going to shoot a video during, a pandemic and all this? And my label has been pretty strict about, protocols and all that kind of stuff. So he came up with this cool idea where he took this old stock footage from an old TNN show called Club Dance, where it's just this line dancing show. And we went to the new Nashville Palace in Nashville there, and my band and I, we dressed like period appropriately and performed this song over and over and over again this particular day. And then he took that stock footage and our performance and made it look like it was happening at the same time. And it was bizarre. So everybody can check that out on YouTube, Vivo, all of that. And I'm very proud of this project. It's basically 12 songs of just my favorite country songs from throughout my life. And I've got several special guests joining me on it. I got, everybody from the new crop of artists like Chris Jansen, Runaway June, Maddie and Tay, to, the more established Hall of Fame, type artists like Chris Christopherson, John Anderson, Randy Travis, and even Allison Moore is on here. So it's a pretty fun record. I'm very proud of it. And, you can get it now. It's Country State of Mind.
Very good. Where's the simplest way to find it?
JoshTurner.com can, be your starting point, and you can go buy it from wherever, at that point. So
very good. Chris Christopherson still singing.
83 years old. Yeah. I texted his wife, Lisa, back Thanksgiving 2019, and I said, what are the chances that Chris, could be on this project, and her literal response was when and where.
That's awesome.
And I was just blown away by that. So he recorded his. It was funny. He had done a songwriters thing for BMI out on Maui the night before with Willie Nelson, and he went into the studio the next morning out there in Hawaii to record his part on this record, and he did 2 passes and told Lisa, he said, "I'm tired, I'm going home." So I was like, all right, we got what we needed, I guess, and moved on. So yeah,
there ought to be some advantages that come with being a senior statesman. So.
Oh yeah, you can do what you want.
Because some of Chris's miles were hard miles. So.
Yeah, and the song of his that I did on this record is "Why Me," which I'll be doing here tonight, and I think it's been one of his most popular songs. So yeah, it'll be fun.
That is awesome. Well, our guest is Josh Turner, and Josh, you do such a beautiful job of modeling, using the influence God gives you, and honoring Him with it. You don't have to be a preacher to do that. You can do it no matter what your day job is. So thank you for that.
No, I appreciate it.
You told me a story one time about your pickup truck. And I mean, kind of a God story on how you ended up with that, and a dream. Same one in the photo shoot on your album, right?
Yeah.
Somebody had it and found it, or I remember that right?
Yeah. I had always wanted this late 70s model Ford 4-wheel drive pickup truck when I was in high school, and my parents refused to get it for me. They were like, "Oh, it's just going to cost money, and you're going to be constantly repairing it and all this," and so they never would let me have it. And so I had always, from that point on, I just always wanted one. And so I guess it was my 4th record, Haywire. We had found a guy that had one like that I'd always wanted, and to include it in the photo shoot and everything. And so we got that truck in a lot of different shots, and then I just exchanged information with the owner, and we just kept in touch. And quite a few years later, I asked him if he still had the truck, and he was like, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, my wife's going to let me get it, if you're willing to part with it." And he said, "Well, let me talk to my wife." And so they had it for, I think, 14 years, and they decided to let me have it, and so they did. So I've had it in photo shoots since then, so it's part of my family now.
Absolutely. It's a piece of Americana.
That's right.
Well, thank you for your faith and for what you're doing in our nation. You do it through your music, but you're making an impact for the kingdom of God, and I really appreciate it.
Well, I thank you, too, for your influence and what you've been called to do. I know that this church has basically been, kind of, part of your family from a very early age. And I've been thinking here lately, too, that when I was growing up, one of the things that I craved as a teenager was to hear current events preached about from the pulpit, because as a young person, especially those that don't really know what God says about a lot of different issues, you need to hear that. If you're going to church, you need to hear that, and or else you're more likely to be swayed by a lot of different influences, because there's plenty of non-biblical and non-Christian influences out there that can kind of change your thinking on some things. And so I'm appreciative and thankful that you're not afraid to talk about what the Lord says about a lot of these issues that are front and center in our nation and in our world today. And I think that's very crucial to those who are fair weather churchgoers or may not understand the Bible as well as we do. And so I think that's very important. So I appreciate you being willing to do that and take a stand and be bold enough, because there was a lot of issues that were not preached about from the pulpit when I was growing up. I had a great church. I had a lot of great preachers come through, and we had a great congregation, and they helped raise me in a great way. But there was just a lot of holes that I that were never filled, because I never heard those elders in my life speak to those, because I don't know if they thought it was controversial or whatever, but I just always missed out on that kind of stuff. So,
well, thank you. I think it's an important time for us to begin to tell the truth.
I agree.
We don't have to be belligerent or angry or condemning, but we've got to tell the truth. I'm afraid of my boss.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to keep doing that.
Exactly.
But and it isn't just me. Don't leave it to the preachers. I think all of us in our conversations with our friends, and we've got to start talking about what's going on in our world. I think we've all been a little afraid or bullied or intimidated or threatened and are afraid we'd say the wrong thing. And we will. There's times we'll say the wrong thing and we'll have to say, look, I'm sorry. Yeah. We know how to apologize, and we can make a statement that isn't correct and come back and revisit it and straighten it out. We've got to learn to live more civilly and talk about what's going on in our world. So I'll keep practicing if you'll keep singing,
That's right.
okay?
All right, I will.
Good deal.